Hello all, we're continuing our conversation on communication. We've been talking more along the lines of communication channels. Here we go. Sometimes the difference between failed communications and those that hit their mark is your choice of channel. When you are encoding a message, select the best channel. The channels through which we transmit our messages are nonverbal, oral, written, and visual, which you'll see here in Table 10.1. Every time we talk to someone, we use words, but we also communicate non-verbally. Non-verbal communication consists of the messages we send without words. It includes the setting, our physical surroundings, and our body language. Body language includes our facial expressions, our eye contact, and a smile or a dirty look. Vocal quality is, are we calmly or urgently, fast or talking slowly or softly or loudly? And our gestures, moving of hands, pointing and nodding. And number 4, posture. Are we sitting up straight or are we slouching? Are we leaning back or forward, crossing our arms or legs? Use nonverbal communication effectively to project a calm, professional manner. Smile. Face the person and use appropriate eye contact for 3 to 5 seconds. Lean forward a bit and gesture, often to convey that you are listening and are interested. Do not cross your arms or your legs. Those are signs of being closed to communication, and speak in a pleasant, calm tone of voice. Recall that Lou Holtz said that we choose to be happy or sad. Acting happy can make you and other people happier. Be aware of people's nonverbal communication because it reveals their feelings and attitudes toward you and the communication. Listen to what people say and don't say. Read between the lines. Do you consciously read nonverbal communications? Work on it. A major weakness of both writing and text and email and speaking on the phone is that we lose most of the nonverbal communications that help convey meaning. The adage, actions speak louder than words, is true. So be sure that your verbal message is consistent with your nonverbal signals because people tend to give more weight to the nonverbal communication. If you go to talk to your coach or boss about something important and she says, I'm really happy to talk to you, but she spends the entire time on her phone, will you believe the words or the actions? When you are speaking to people, show them that you care about them by giving them your complete attention. Don't check your phone during the conversation. Nonverbal communication can be more effective than verbal. Lovie Smith, the former NFL Chicago Bears coach and current coach of the University of Illinois, doesn't yell at his players. When he gets mad, he stares straight ahead in silence. His players call it the Lovie look and says it's more frightening and more effective than a torrent of angry words. Lovie Smith believes you can get a team to compete more fiercely and win more games by giving directives calmly and treating players with respect. Screaming managers are often resented and their messages ignored. Although there are exceptions, yelling in anger generally doesn't work well with females. Encouragement and positive behavior generally lead to better performance. We transmit messages orally by talking with each other. Using oral channels is easy and fast and allows for immediate feedback. The disadvantages are that such channels are often less accurate than other channels and they provide no record that the communication took place. Regardless of your career path, you will need to excel at presenting your ideas, be it face-to-face, in meetings, presentations, on the phone, or leaving a message. With increasing globalization, video communications via Skype and Zoom often replace face-to-face meetings and presentations. Face-to-face communications are appropriate for delegating tasks, disciplining, sharing information, answering questions, and checking progress toward objectives. Developing and maintaining rapport and coaching on the field and in the office. But don't be boring. Relationships are important and face-to-face conversations help develop and maintain relationships. Meetings are important for coordinating team activities, delegating tasks to groups, and resolving conflicts. The most common meeting is the brief, informal get-together with a few athletes or employees. As you learned in Chapter 9, with the increased use of Teams, much more time is spent in meetings, and the ability to lead effective meetings is an important skill to acquire. You present your ideas every day, whether you are talking sports, accepting an award, promoting a charity, or fulfilling sponsorship requirements. Your ability to use words gracefully, lucidly, and accurately, and to deliver them well is a sure way to garner positive attention from your colleagues and your bosses. Speaking skills are important because they are not used only for formal speeches. The grace and confidence you gain from giving presentations are essential ingredients for working with others individually and in groups. Here are a few pointers. Begin speeches with an attention-grabbing opener, a quote, a joke, or an interesting story that ignites interest in your topic. Follow the opener. Your presentation should have 3 parts: a beginning, a purpose statement, and an overview of the main points to be covered. A middle, which is the discussion of the main points in enough detail to get the message across, but not so much detail that you lose your audience. And an end, a summary of the purpose, main points, and any action required of the audience. Stories are good at getting your message across, but they can't be boring. If you're uncomfortable giving presentations, then practice some more. Join your local Toastmasters club. These clubs have shaped many an effective speaker from the clay of pure terror. There are many books on giving effective presentations. PowerPoint is a great presentation enhancer, and you should learn how to use it. To use it effectively, follow these 2 tips. First and foremost, don't just read your slides unless you want to bore people senseless. Death by PowerPoint. It's common. To avoid this, go easy on the text. Just use an outline to aid you in talking to your audience. If you can't talk to people, just show them your slides and let them read the slides for themselves. Second, the purpose of PowerPoint is to help you get your point across. So don't go crazy with special effects. They may be impressive, but they often distract from the point you are trying to make. Avoid laser pointers. They are distracting. If you want to be good at giving presentations, it's the same as training for sports. You need to plan for your workouts. Develop PowerPoint slides. Practice your skills. Rehearse the presentations alone and in front of a few others, and win the competition and deliver a great speech. You also need to watch your nonverbal mannerisms, such as body movements and interjections like so that they contribute to your message instead of distracting attention from it. The amount of time you spend on the phone will depend on your job. Phones are inappropriate for personnel matters such as disciplining, but they are good for quick exchanges of information. They are especially useful for saving travel time. Although email and texting have gained in popularity, they are terrible for conversation. So use the phone and save time. If you prefer texting, recruiters say oral communication skills are more important. Here are a few pointers to keep in mind when you talk on a phone at work. Before making calls, set an objective and list what you plan to discuss. Use your list for jotting notes during the call. When receiving calls, determine the caller's purpose and decide whether you or another person should handle it. When calls come in at inconvenient times, arrange to call the person back. Use your cell phone responsibly and politely. Other people in restaurants, airports, and other public places don't want to hear your business conversation, so step aside in private. Mobile phones have evolved into personal assistants for many professionals. Phones can be used to schedule and organize your personal calendar, that deliver and receive email, browse the web, and help you to get to a meeting on time by providing guided directions. They give you an alarm clock for your hotel wake-up call, a calculator, and barcode scanning capabilities. Replace the need to carry a credit card. However, mobile phone also means that your employer, if he or she has your phone number, can reach you at all times of the day. On a personal note, although you may use your personal smartphone on the job, keep your personal use to a minimum while working. Privacy laws are not the same on and off the job. Companies have the technology and the legal right to listen to your personal calls on your own smartphone on their premises. And avoid using your cell phone, especially texting, when you're driving. Your life isn't the only one on the line. If you call and don't get an answer, it is polite to leave a short message and request a callback or indicate when you will call back. Voicemail is also used for sending short messages containing information that doesn't need to be written, and texting is more popular today. Today, every time we text, email, post, tweet, or use social media, we are writing with technology constantly, and our words can last forever. So organizations demand that their people have good writing skills. Poorly written communications reveal your weaknesses more clearly and more permanently than when you talk. Poor writing skills hinder your college performance, job search, and career development and advancement. Abbreviated jargon is fine for texting your friends, but not for more formal business communication. So learn to write effectively. Written communication allows time to ensure accuracy and precision, and it gives people time to think before they reply. It also provides an all-important record for what is communicated, but it often takes longer to text and email back and forth than it does to just pick up the phone and talk. You also lose the nonverbal part of communicating, and you get less feedback. And don't let social media exchanges take the place of face-to-face and phone communications for maintaining good working and social relationships with work. Here are other written channels you will continually use in your work. Memos, commonly used to send intra-organizational messages. Letters, the snail mail for getting your formal messages to people outside the organization on company letterhead. Faxes and scanning attachments for when the instant communication needs to be hard copy. Reports for formally conveying information, evaluation, analyses, and recommendations. Newsletters are great ways for conveying general information to the entire organization. Bulletin board notices for supplementing other channels and for wide dissemination of public information. And signs or posters for permanent reminders of important information, such as mission statements, safety instructions, universal symbols, such as the hexagonal stop sign with a line through the forbidden activity. Use written channels for all manner of communications to send general information, send specific and detailed information like facts and figures, to thank people, to send messages that require future action, or to send messages that affect several people, an entire team, or a department in a related way, to name but a few. Taken together, let's call these technologies e-com. E-com is commonly used for all the written channels to send memos, letters, written reports, and newsletters, and to serve as bulletin boards and as a sign. E-com is great for instant 24/7, 365 communications, both formal and informal. E-com has been called the greatest productivity of our time. Conversely, some employees and friends complain that e-com causes information overload. It wastes work time, and it's annoying. Personal e-com takes up employees' work time at great expense to employers. As a manager, don't let e-com and talking on cell phones interfere with productivity on the job. Here's a very short course for improving your writing. Before you write, organize your thoughts. Decide on the content that will help your audience understand your point. Outlines are good for this. Check the message that you've laid out in your outline for focus. Weed out ideas and information that receivers don't need. Consider what you want your receivers to hear, to think, and to do. Now write from your outline in a way that makes it easy for the reader to understand your message, being brief and clear. As with effective presentations, effective written communications have a beginning, the purpose of the communication that encourages reading it, a middle with support for the purpose, facts, figures, and reasoning, and an end, a summary of the major points and a clear statement of conclusions or of action, if any, to be taken by you and the receivers. When you get an email, respond with direct, simple answers. Write as though you are talking to the person. Write to communicate clearly, not to impress. Keep your message short and simple. Follow the 1-5-15 rule. Limit each paragraph to one topic with an average of 5 sentences that average 15 words. Vary your paragraph and sentence length, but never let paragraphs get too long, because this discourages the person from reading your message. Write in the active voice. I recommend rather than the passive voice. It is recommended. Great writers use multiple drafts, and for important business issues like your resume, so can you. If you want your message to sizzle, reread it and edit it. I often use, it's called the shitty first draft, SFD. Anyway, Have others edit your work. Do it again. If you're writing a paper or report, search out articles in the Journal of Sport Management, a leading journal in the field, and other sport journals. You can end up working in a sport information department, or SID, among many other responsibilities. SIDs are responsible for organizing and writing press releases. Press releases are crisply written letters that SIDs disseminate to local media about the sports teams, coaching staff, student athletes, and the entire athletic department. Many websites provide tips on writing a press release, such as the following. Make sure the information is newsworthy and substantial. Tell the audience that the information is intended for them and why they should continue to read it. Make sure the first 10 words of your press release are effective. Avoid excessive use of adjectives and fancy language. Deal with facts. Provide as much contact information as possible and make it as easy as possible for media representatives to do their jobs. Sporting and event telecasts on TV and increasingly on the internet are big business. Two notions dominate discussions of links between sport media and sport attendance. One side says that media use in sport both increases with and promotes event attendance. The other side holds that media use can act as a recreational substitute for attendance. If you aspire to work for NCAA, Division 1A, or pro teams, you should realize that telecasting of games is big money for teams. You may also want to consider a career in sport media. There are lots of jobs behind the scenes, or should we say screens, of visual channels like ESPN. Visuals are also critical to coaching and improving performance. Many teams watch game videos to identify strengths and weaknesses. Repetition helps ensure that important messages are received and their meaning is understood and remembered. That is where combining channels convey an important message. You might send a memo, sometimes several, and then follow up with personal visits or phone calls to see whether receivers have questions. There are times when you will want to formally document a face-to-face meeting, particularly in disciplinary situations. Mike Francesca briefly left WFAN only to return with an even larger communication plan. His WFAN radio show will also appear on an app for the show instead of using a TV simulcast. The radio show will be used as a generator of content to create more digital operations. He missed communicating directly to his audience during his brief retirement. So you should see it now on 24-hour streaming. Before you send a message that is difficult, unusual, or especially important, use this short checklist to make sure your message is on target. Ask yourself, what, who, how, which, where, and when. What is my goal in this message? What do you want the end result of the communication to be? Set an objective and keep to it. Who should receive my message? And how should I encode my message? Follow the guidelines and which channel is appropriate for my message, my receivers, and the situation. Where should I deliver my message? In your office, the locker room, or the receiver's workplace? Choose a place that keeps distractions to a minimum. And when should I transmit my message? Timing is important. So think about your receiver and be considerate. Don't approach someone 5 minutes before quitting time. Make appointments when appropriate. Recall that oral channels are the richest and face-to-face oral communication is best when the message is difficult or complex. When sending a face-to-face message, follow these steps in the process. Step number 1 is develop rapport. Put the receiver at ease. It is usually appropriate to begin communication with small talk, like sports. Step 2, state your communication objective. It is helpful for the receiver to know the purpose of the communication before you explain the details. And step number 3, transmit your message. Tell the receiver the details of the message, such as using the job instructional training method. Step 4, check the receiver's understanding. When giving information, ask direct questions or paraphrase. Simply asking, do you have any questions? Does not check understanding. When we describe how to check understanding later in the chapter, Step 5, get a commitment and a follow-up. If the message involves assigning a task, make sure that the message recipient can do the task and have done it by a certain time or date. When athletes and employees are reluctant to commit to the necessary action, coaches and managers can use persuasive power, which we talked about in Chapter 8. Within their authority, follow up to ensure that necessary action has been taken. To choose the best channel for a given message, look at the media's richness. Media richness is the amount of information and meaning that the channel can transmit. The more information and meaning, the richer the channel. Face-to-face talk is therefore the richest channel because the full range of oral and nonverbal communication is available. Phone calls are less rich than face-to-face meetings because nonverbal cues are lost. Written messages can be rich, but they must be very well written to qualify. Video is rich because body language is evident. For communication to take place after you transmit your message, you will need to know whether the receiver gets it. This is where you check understanding by asking for feedback. Feedback is the process of verifying messages. It literally feeds back to the sender the original information, meaning, or intent transmitted in the message. Indeed, the most common reason that messages fail to communicate is a lack of feedback. Questioning, paraphrasing, and soliciting comments and suggestions are all ways you as a sender can check understanding through feedback. If the receiver of your message can answer your questions or paraphrase the message back to you, you have successfully transmitted your message. If not, keep trying until you succeed. Before we discuss effective ways to solicit feedback, let's look at what can go wrong. Proper questioning and proper paraphrasing helps ensure that when you send your message, your receiver gets the message. And paraphrasing, receivers restate the message in their own words. Be sure to use your own words to say it differently because some people don't want you to parrot back what they said. Keep the following in mind when getting feedback. There are no dumb questions. Never sneer at a question, no matter how stupid you think it is. Always answer patiently and explain clearly. If people sense impatience in you, you've just stopped any question dead in its tracks. To encourage good questions, listen carefully and praise good questions. Tune in to your own nonverbal. Match your walk to your talk. If your nonverbal messages are discouraging feedback, no amount of verbal pleading on your part will bring forth the harvest of questions you want. If you say, ask me questions, but you look at them like they are stupid or you behave impatiently, they won't ask questions. Tune into your receiver's nonverbals. Seeing a lot of puzzled or blank looks out there, it's time to stop, backtrack, and clarify. Ask your receivers questions. If you ask good questions, you can get good answers. Ask anything, except of course, do you have any questions? Ask direct questions for specific information you have given. If responses are off track or muddled, repeat the question or repeat the message. Give more examples or elaborate further. You can also ask indirect questions. How do you feel about doing this task? Ask if you were me questions. If you were me, how would you solve our lack of focus during games? Ask third-party questions such as, how will players respond when they have to bring their grades up to stay on the team? If you get receivers to talk, the feedback gates will open. Have receivers paraphrase your message. Paraphrasing is a valuable way to check understanding. Soliciting it gracefully is also an art. Clumsy soliciting, paraphrasing makes people feel stupid. Saying, Joan, tell me what I just said so that I can make sure you won't make a mistake, or so I will be sure you will do the job right. It's not going to work. In fact, it's going to backfire big time. Have some paraphrasing questions worked out beforehand. With practice, they will eventually roll off your tongue. Now, please tell me what you're going to do so that we will be sure we are in agreement on how you will complete the task. Please tell me what you're going to do so that I can be sure that I explain the task clearly. This takes the pressure off them and puts it on you, where it belongs. You take 100% responsibility for sending your messages accurately. The third step in the communication process, which requires you as a receiver to decode the message into a meaningful form. Interpret it. Now it's time to become a good receiver, which begins with listening. If someone asked you if you were a good listener, most likely you would say yes, but most of us are not good listeners because we don't remember what we said, what was said. Unfortunately, the number one thing lacking in new college grads is listening skills. Can you pay attention and listen effectively at school, in sport, at work, and for how long? Before we sharpen our listening skills, consider how people receive messages. The message receiving process involves listening, analyzing, and checking for understanding. To receive the real message the sender is transmitting, you have to do all three. Receiving doesn't end with good listening. By using the message receiving process, you can become a better listener. Receiving process begins with three parts. Listening. Listening is the process of giving the speaker your undivided attention, and I emphasize the word undivided. Our ability to comprehend words 5 times more quickly than speakers can talk results in, you guessed it, wandering minds. The results, of course, is that with all the background thoughts and sounds, bings and bongs of texts and emails, the sender's message is lost. To listen, we have to hear what is said, which we can do, but it's not enough. Retentive listening results in remembering the message. How good is your listening memory? Again, listening requires undivided attention. When managers send messages, they usually require us to take action to achieve an objective. But how can we take action if we don't understand or remember the message? To understand and remember messages, you must concentrate. We remember what we see better than what we hear. We get distracted and lose your ability to pay attention. And remember things when you separate the use of your eyes and your mind. When your eyes and ears are not working together as a team, you can't concentrate at all. If you are listening to someone talking as you're checking the phone or looking somewhere else, you lose your concentration. Pay attention, avoid distractions, mentally paraphrase. Don't assume and interrupt. Watch nonverbals, ask questions, take notes when appropriate, and convey that you are listening. When you're analyzing, think about what is being said. Wait to evaluate until after listening and check for understanding. So paraphrase and watch nonverbal communication. Other listening guidelines, pay attention. It's that simple and that hard because paying attention is hard. Or we would all be great listeners. Relax quickly and clear your mind and then focus on the sender. Let's get you on track right now. If you miss the first few words, you may miss the whole gist of the message. Practice this. The next time someone interrupts your work in order to talk, stop whatever you are doing immediately or ask for a minute to finish and give the person your complete attention. Don't multitask when people want to talk to you. Your nonverbals will be saying, go away, I'm too busy to talk to you. Avoid distractions. Concentration is the key to your listening, so shut off your phone and other distractions. Keep your eyes on the speaker. Do not fiddle with pens, paper, your phone, or anything else. If the area is noisy or full of distractions, move to a quiet spot. Stay tuned and repeat. If your mind wanders to other topics, and it will, gently bring it back. Continue to bring it back every time you notice yourself straying. Don't tune out because you don't like something about the speaker or because you disagree with what is being said. Don't tune out because the topic is difficult. Ask questions instead. Don't think about what you're going to say in reply. Stay tuned and by silently paraphrasing the message. The next time your mind wanders, repeat word for word what the person is saying. Repeating really forces you to stay tuned. Try it. It works. Don't assume and don't interrupt. Most mistakes in receiving messages are made when we hear the first few words of a sentence. Think think we know what it is all about to be said and finish it in our own minds and then miss the real message without interrupting, because you really listen to the entire message without interrupting because you really don't know what the speaker is going to say. Watch nonverbals. People sometimes say one thing and mean something else. Watch as you listen to be sure that the speaker's eyes, body, and face are in sync with the verbal message. If something seems out of sync, ask questions to clarify. Ask questions. Check your understanding. When you feel something's missing or contradictory or you just don't understand, don't be afraid to ask for clarification. The speaker will be grateful, as will other listeners. If you don't understand a message, chances are they don't understand it either. Take notes. Write down important things. This helps you concentrate on what is being said and helps you remember later. Also have something to write on and something to write with. You can use your smartphone. Taking notes also tells the sender non-verbally that you want to get the message right. Convey you are listening. Active listeners use verbal cues. You feel, yes, I see, I understand. And non-verbal cues such as eye contact, nodding your head, and leaning slightly forward to indicate that you're interested in listening. Active listening also helps you concentrate and retain what you hear. In taking criticism, sometimes no response is the best option. An alternative is to postpone a response until after you've had time to calm down. Be aware of your feelings and realize that it only takes seconds to say something that hurts others, but it can take years to heal the wounds your words and actions cause others. If you get emotional and wish to reply in anger, consider that you may have misunderstood the behavior. The other person may not have meant it the way it sounds to you. Perception, incongruence, and attribution that we talked about in Chapter 8. Realize that some people don't intend to upset you. The behavior that bothers you just comes out of their ignorance of good human relations. Others may not even realize their behavior upsets you. Avoid being passive-aggressive. Ever let something that upsets you happen several times without saying anything and let it build to the point of getting angry and yelling about the behavior? And the person didn't even know why you were upset or that you were overreacting. Do confront people early about their behavior that upsets you, but be calm and follow the steps for resolving conflicts in Chapter 8. Getting upset and yelling doesn't help your relationship or fix the problem. Angry outbursts hurt your health. You may regret responding in anger later, and your response will likely hurt your relationship. The lesson here, if you can control your negative emotional responses, you will have better relationships and be a better effective leader. Each of us chooses our responses in emotional exchanges. Avoid getting caught up in others' emotions by responding emotionally. Staying calm when dealing with an emotional person works with much better. We have a chance to shape these exchanges into something positive. In the name-calling scenario, you could make a calm, reflective statement such as, "You must really be upset to call me that name." Don't let the competitors get into your head with trash talk and hurt your performance. Following are some specific do's and don'ts for dealing with emotional people that will also help prevent you from getting emotional. If someone explodes at you in anger, what can you do? There are positive ways to handle the situation, but first, here's what you shouldn't do. Don't put the person down. Don't deny the anger. It's a judgment of the feeling. Don't accuse back. Do you really want to fight? Don't patronize the person. You don't want to fuel their anger. Don't show who's boss unless you are the boss and your authority is being challenged. This means that the following statements should never be said, even if you are thinking them, because they escalate the feelings instead of calming the person. It's no big deal. It may not be to you, but it is to them. You shouldn't be angry. Recall that feelings are neither right nor wrong, so don't judge feelings as wrong. Using the word should result in a judgment. Don't be upset. It's too late for that. The person is already upset. You're acting like a baby. Like this is going to get you somewhere? Probably not. Just sit down and be quiet. This may shut the person up, but it will fuel emotions. Think about it. If someone tells you to be quiet, will you calmly listen and agree to the lecture, admitting you are wrong and they are right? I know how you feel. No, you don't. Recall the discussion of perceptions in Chapter 8. No one, even someone who has experienced the same thing, knows how others feel. 3, these statements only raise the temperature of the exchange. Belittlers cause emotional distress and undermine confidence, contributing to a person's anger, fear, and panic hampers performance. So avoid emotional responses, which you often will regret later anyway. Try to get away from an emotional exchange and get to communication. First, you have to deal with the emotion, and then you can deal with the issue. You can't successfully deal with the issue when emotions are high. The best way to calm someone is to be an empathetic listener. That is, show empathy and acknowledge the feeling with open-ended, reflective responses. Let them express the feeling. Let them vent. After emotions are calm, you can rationally discuss the issue. However, don't encourage people to vent about things that can't be changed, because venting actually makes us angrier, and it's unhealthy. Instead, focus on things that can be changed to solve problems. Don't simply complain about them. Fortunately, there are productive ways you can respond. For one thing, you make sure you know Chapter 8 inside and out. Another, learn to empathize. Empathy is the ability to understand and relate to someone else's situation and feelings. Empathetic responders deal with feelings, content, and the underlying meaning expressed in the message. Empathetic people are good listeners. In fact, with good listening comes empathy. They are natural byproducts of each other. Exceptional leaders are empathetic, especially when they communicate bad news. So remember, use good listening skills. Pay attention to what people are saying. Don't assume and don't interrupt. Let them know you are listening. Honor their feelings, in other words, and withhold evaluative responses and advice. Carefully reflect back like this. Were you hurt when you didn't get the first string position? You resent Charlie for not pulling his weight on the team. Is that what you mean? Are you doubtful that the job's going to get done on time? Very often, simply understanding the sender's feelings is the solution. Only venting is wanted, not advice. Other times, solutions must be found. As emotions cool, and they will if you give them enough time, you can proceed to the crux of the problem and begin solving it. If emotions continue to run high, you may have to wait until a later time before you can consider solutions. You're going to give some criticism, and you're going to get some. It's easier to give it than it is to get it, isn't it? In management and sports, criticism is necessary for continuous improvement. Some organizations develop a culture of candor that encourages criticism to improve everyone's performance. Most managers dislike giving critical feedback to underperformers. This is part of the reason so many people don't do a good job. The goal of criticism should be to improve performance. How you criticize will affect if the receiver will improve, both on and off the field. Keep in mind that criticism gets the best results when given with empathy and the spirit of helping others, and when it is coming from a person who is trusted and respected. Avoid personal criticism, no personal put-downs. Focus on improving performance, and don't criticize things people can't change. It doesn't help to tell a player she dropped the ball. She knows it and most likely feels bad about it already. Don't waste time placing blame. The team wins or loses. Saying it's someone's fault doesn't change anything in a positive way, but it will hurt cohesiveness. Never criticize someone publicly, especially your bosses. Here are some guidelines for giving motivational criticism to improve performance. You will learn how to deal with problem employees and to discipline in Chapter 13. Don't focus on the negative and don't belittle someone. It isn't constructive. In fact, it often leads to lower performance. Don't tell people they are wrong unless it is necessary. For example, when you are disciplining employees, when you are telling people they are wrong, they tend to get defensive and become less open to change. Instead, get them to ask you for criticism. Get people to ask. The best way to improve their performance is to get others to ask you for your feedback without putting them down. Let them know you want to help them improve. Try this approach. Don't say things like, "You're doing that wrong. Let me show you how to do it the right way." Do you say things like, "Would you like me to show you a better way to do that?" How would you react to these messages? Which one would motivate you to improve your performance? State the behavior that can be improved. Specify the improved behavior, and training coaches needed. Receivers of criticism can't improve unless they know exactly what they can improve on and how to improve. Often you will need to teach them how to perform the task more effectively or provide continuing coaching. Using job instructional training is an effective way to give criticism. None of us enjoys being criticized, even when it is constructive, and many people detest criticism because the truth can cause emotional hurt. Know that you know how to give criticism. You will be effective at it, but you're going to get some criticism, maybe lots of it. So you might as well learn how to take it. In fact, if you're wise, you will want constructive criticism. How else are you going to realize your full potential? View constructive criticism through the perceptual lens of wanting it. This will put you in a position to use it constructively and to see it as not a personal attack on you, but as what it is: help, encouragement, and teaching. And take criticism gracefully gives you power to continuously improve. If you are overly sensitive and become defensive, people will avoid giving you the criticism you need if you are to grow. Think about it as no pain, no gain, and consider how you will gain when you take the pain. If your coach simply says, "Good game," which we love to hear, can you improve for the next game? Only if the coach or others criticize you with actionable feedback can you improve. Think of criticism as what it is: feedback to improve your performance. During your formal performance appraisals, your boss will be giving you criticism. These interviews can be stressful, but they are the best way to find out how to improve your performance, which will lead to better performance reviews, raises, and promotions. A big problem is that many people are so poor at giving criticism. Remember that even jerks can help you improve. So no matter how poorly the person gives criticism, don't get offensive, or defensive, I should say. Don't take the feedback as a personal put down. Instead, focus on how you can improve. Even when you disagree with it, there is usually some truth that can help you. So look for the nugget of value. Stay calm, even when the other person is emotional. And don't get defensive. Deny something you did or blame others. If you do, and it's hard not to when you feel attacked, your boss and others will stop giving you feedback that will help you improve your performance. Take responsibility, admit your mistakes, learn from them, and most important, don't repeat them. Don't dwell on your mistakes or you will make even more mistakes. If you drop the ball or miss a shot, get back out there with confidence and focus on getting it right. Even extraordinary talents get their share of criticism. If you watch sports, you see lots of coaches yelling. Okay, to sum all of this up, you need to be able to understand how communication flows through the organizations. List the 4 steps in the communication process. Use your transmission channels well, and communicate effectively in person. Select appropriate channels for your messages. Be able to solicit feedback properly and explain how we receive messages. Choose appropriate response styles and be calm and emotional person. Thank you for joining me today. I look forward to talking with you again. You'll have a great day.